Salutations, comrades, and welcome back. It's Lola Fett. Originally, when I started this channel, I wanted to post about every 5 days or so, but then I remembered I'm chronically ill. And it sometimes doesn't work in my favor. So I'm actually going to take the opportunity to talk about that today. This is a question that I've gotten on almost every other platform. A lot of people in my personal life have reached out to me asking, how did I get diagnosed with fibromyalgia? How did I find a doctor willing to go through that? How do I manage my pain? Fibromyalgia is complicated, incredibly complicated. And let me start by saying I am not a doctor. I am not giving medical advice. This is a full disclaimer. Please go to your doctor. Please find a doctor that you trust. This is not medical advice. Okay? Disclaimer. So fibromyalgia is a musculoskeletal disorder that affects your pain perception. So somebody with fibromyalgia is more likely to have a higher pain sensation. Things that are not supposed to hurt would hurt for somebody with fibromyalgia. Basically, our bodies do not know how to process pain and perceive pain correctly. My diagnosis journey is kind of similar to a lot of stories that I've heard, but it is important to know everybody is different, and fibromyalgia specifically presents in so many different ways for each person because of the vast range of symptoms that are common with fibromyalgia. So I have scoliosis and I have IBS. And for a long time, I thought that my chronic pain was due to my scoliosis, right? Because if you've got a S-shaped spaghetti noodle for a spine, all right, that's gonna make your shoulders hurt. That's gonna make your jaw hurt. That's gonna make your hips hurt, your legs hurt. So I just kind of chalked that up to this is me going into my late 20s with an S-shaped spine. That's just, I was having to uh, accept that was, my pain was getting worse due to that. Now, things started to change when I was working in the beauty industry. I was actually doing brows full time, so that's a lot of very fine motor skills, a lot of hand work. And I also worked at a place where we did the brows standing up. So I basically was standing, tweezing, and like leaning forward all day, if you can kind of picture that. So like Leaning Tower of Pisa. Um, and my pain got to the point where it was unmanageable. Right? My hands were cramping in what I called Barbie hands. So like I would just freeze here. I got to the point where I had a distinct limp. My left leg could barely bear weight. And I had to look for different options. I started seeing my primary care physician and asking for help. I was like, I don't know if this is just my spine. I'm having, these nerve sensations, this cramping in my hands. Like I'm having swelling in my feet. I don't know if I'm having circulation issues, if this is just my scoliosis affecting my body in different ways. So my PCP didn't have a lot of experience with fibromyalgia, which is not uncommon. All right, it's a very new diagnosis. There's still a lot of research going on right now. We still don't even know the cause, so I can't really fault this doctor for really not knowing. But I will give her the benefit of the doubt in the sense that she did every test and sent me to every specialist that she could to figure out if there was literally any other cause for my symptoms. So I saw a rheumatologist, a cardiologist, a hematologist, a neurologist, a rheumatologist, a physical therapist, an occupational therapist. I'm not even going to go into all the tests I had done. But at each point, I was cleared by each specialist where it was like, no, your blood count is fine. You don't have lupus, you don't have arthritis. So my doctor finally sat down with my full CBC, my complete blood panel, or that's your, I think, complete blood count, doesn't matter. Again, I'm not a doctor. But basically we sat down and we looked at the inflammatory markers. And at this point in my diagnostic journey, My doctor put it to me as, okay, we are going to test and make sure that you don't have anything rheumatology oriented wrong. We're going to check for lupus, arthritis, etc. And I just want you to know that if these come back as negative, if your inflammatory markers are within the reasonable range, I am going to proceed with a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. Now, I think this was aided by the fact that my mom has fibromyalgia and has been diagnosed since I was about 18, so going on 12 years. So I was able to talk to my doctor about there is this hereditary history of chronic pain and fibromyalgia diagnosis. So I think that she hesitated less with that diagnosis because of the hereditary patterns. Um, I'll never know. But all of the diagnosis process for me personally took about a year and a half. And that was a year and a half of repeated blood work, of really painful nerve conduction tests, going to doctors that were confused why I was there. Like, I got sent for a test for varicose veins, and the doctor literally looked at me and was like, I can do the test, but there's literally no reason I should. I don't know why your PCP ordered this. So I think she just kind of got desperate in the end. But a year and a half later, I had the diagnosis of fibromyalgia. Now, again, we don't actually know what causes fibromyalgia. There is a ton of research happening right now to try to figure out the causation, but there are correlations. Two of the things that will make you more prone to fibromyalgia are age. You tend to be more susceptible or more likely to be diagnosed with fibromyalgia the closer to middle age and beyond that you get, and those hereditary markers. So if you have somebody in your family, especially like a parent or a direct relative that has fibromyalgia, it is more likely that you will as well. And there's a lot of research going into that itself, because is it hereditary, is it genetic, or is it in nature versus nurture, right? And that goes into one of the other researched causalities, which is trauma. And I'm not going to speak on this a whole lot, again, because I'm not a doctor and I'm not a researcher, but there is a significant link to physical or mental trauma and fibromyalgia developing. The theories are that when you are in either in a heightened or a repetitive state of fight or flight, your adrenal glands and therefore your body no longer know how to process pain perception. They don't know how to process pain anymore correctly because they've been in fight or flight for so long. Talking about treatment, this is a touchy subject for sure, because with having a parent who has this disorder and watching her journey through the beginning of the opiate crisis, where we did not know what was going to happen with the whole opiate crisis. This was way before we knew how bad things were going to get. But I am blessed that I'm allergic to opiates. I'm allergic to most painkillers. So my medicine options for managing my fibromyalgia are fairly limited. Now, I'm not going to talk about the medicines that I personally take on my YouTube, but I will tell you guys that I take something for the nerve pain, a small dose. I do take a antidepressant, which is said to help fibromyalgia, and in intense circumstances, I will take a small dose of a painkiller with a Benadryl because I'm allergic. Symptoms of fibromyalgia, like I said earlier in the video, range wildly, not just from person to person, but within each person. So it can affect your nervous system, it can affect your digestive system. A lot of people have thyroid issues as well. Again, we can't say what's causing what or what's just a comorbidity, but it's very common for different parts of your body to react to the fibromyalgia as well. For myself, I have the IBS symptoms and the allergies as well, so I can't have dairy, can't have gluten, I will swell. And when I tell people like I'm allergic, they're like, "Oh yeah, take a Lactate." I'm like, it's not. I'm not gonna be gassy, bro. I like my joints swell. Like I get the pain is worse. Um, the other symptoms are fatigue. Fatigue is a huge symptom, and that goes into the need for good sleep and the inability to have it. So I feel like it's kind of like this self-cannibalizing cycle where you're so fatigued, but when you lay down to sleep, it's so hard to get restful sleep. Along those lines, as far as treatment, I have a really strict sleep schedule. So I will not use my phone or electronics for like half an hour at least before bed. I have to go brush and braid my hair, brush my teeth, read. I have to like descend into sleep time. I can't just like come home and like I'll be up in 45 minutes, you know? And that's one of the things that makes it so difficult to manage fibromyalgia is that you are walking through what they call the fibro fog, which is that extreme fatigue, that the fatigue is affecting your memory, it's affecting your cognitive processing, it affects everything. I'm so tired. Other interesting things that they recommend for fibromyalgia pain management is both physical therapy and emotional therapy, specifically cognitive behavioral therapy, which is focusing on how are you mentally reacting to the pain? What can you do to reframe your thoughts to be able to manage the pain more? How can we redirect those thought patterns? Because the suicide rate and the injury rate for fibromyalgia folks is so much higher. The depression rate is almost 3 times higher than the normal adult person. So it's really important that we, with chronic pain, manage the mental symptoms as well. And whether that causes the pain or is from the pain, chicken or the egg. All right, so they really recommend that you do things to take care of your body physically and your body mentally. So the focus on the connection between those two, I think, has been really powerful for me as well, because it gives me multiple areas to feel some sort of control in. So I did physical therapy for a while. I did not have great results with physical therapy. Um, that's just my personal experience. I struggle with being touched. I think that's just the autism. So the physical therapy, I feel like I didn't get quite as much out of. That being said, I see a chiropractor who works with a massage therapist, and they are actually under my pain management doctor. So once a month at least, I go to see the chiropractor and massage therapist, and they're in cahoots with my pain management doctor, which is really nice because I trust my doctor with my life. Literally, I have searched for so long to find a doctor that I love, and she is my advocate. I also do CBT. I've been in therapy most of my life, honestly, but I've been really consistent for about 2 years now with my therapist, and she works a lot with my pain symptoms, the depression that comes with the isolation, and the lack of autonomy with chronic pain. So I have really cultivated over the last several years a treatment team and a support team around me to make living with fibromyalgia manageable. And it's crazy to me to think, because I'm making these notes and I'm plotting this video and I'm thinking about back in 2019 when I was diagnosed and how I had such a pronounced limp and I could barely use my hands, and I spent days just on the heating pad managing the back spasms. And I won't say that I don't still have bad days. I do. This sucks, and it's gonna keep sucking. Like, fibromyalgia does not have a cure. It has management techniques, and hopefully with the research that's happening, we will find a cure or more effective treatments or even a preventative method. But right now, it's a matter of giving myself grace and giving myself the resources to manage to the best of my ability. I'm in CBT, I do my Pilates, I take my vitamins, I try to go outside, I have a good sleep pattern, and these have been habits that I've really had to concentrate to form over this span of several years. And even then, I can do everything right. I can still have a flare. And I can still end up in bed. I can still end up waking up in the middle of the night to go throw up. It's just a gamble. And that sucks sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. But being so vocal about it and so upfront on my other social media platforms has been really cathartic and really empowering for me. And like I said, I've had people in my personal life and my professional life reach out to me like, I need help. I don't know that I have fibromyalgia, but I don't know the first thing about seeing a doctor or getting, my how do I start this journey? And I cling on my hard days to the hope that things like this video and things like the other blog posts I've made will help somebody in their own pain management journey. Because it can feel very lonely. It's fucking lonely. It's lonely when you are having to spend a lot of time in bed, or you're having to cancel on social obligations or plans because physically you can't handle it, or immunity wise, like you can't afford to get sick right now. It's making those calls for yourself and making the choices to manage your pain and be safe is lonely. It's lonely. So I hope that this helps you not feel as lonely. It makes me not feel as lonely. Even if I am just kind of screaming into the void of YouTube, it makes me, it makes me feel blessed that I can sit back at this point in my journey and reflect on how much I've fought and how far I've come and how meticulously I've cultivated this treatment team and support system around me. That is fucking cool. So anyway, I know this was not our usual Star Wars video, but I hope that you guys enjoyed it anyway. Hit subscribe, comment below if you have any questions. All of the articles that I used for the actual statistics, treatments, stuff like that, I will link in the comments as well, because again, I am not a doctor, and this is not medical advice. But if you would like to look at written articles by doctors who can give medical advice before you go see your doctor, I'll link it below. All right. Stay safe, comrades.